I thought it'd be fun to go from the bottom and then go to up, but you could start out with
Yeah.
Patient Zero made it to third team.
Yeah, patient zero. He's also the defensive player of the year. So I mean, he is a fantastic defensive player, and that's why he makes it to the All NBA third team. And he's part of the reason why the Jazz are so successful because he's such an integral part as far as defense and running their offense, and just plays very well within the system. And again, is one of the best defenders in the league. So that plays very well into that. Then
Mhm.
you have Jimmy Butler, who is Jimmy, and when Jimmy wants, he's one of the best players in the world. But sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he does. It's just Jimmy. So unfortunately, that's what you got to deal with. And then Paul George, obviously being on the Clippers, they've been pretty successful this year. Kawhi Leonard's basically running mate, and Paul George, that makes sense. He's a great two-way player, one of the better two-way players in the league. Like I said, just not an alpha. That's his problem. That's why he's on the third team and not the first or second.
Right.
That might be a dig, but that's the truth. Bradley Beal, who's like one of the most underappreciated superstars or stars in the league because he plays on a team that's just not good. And he's unfortunately had John Wall and Russell Westbrook as his running mates, who are basically two players that are never going to win you a playoff series because never win you a championship because that's just not the way that they are. I said that even when Westbrook was, I've said that actually in previous podcasts. I've said Westbrook as a superstar is never going to win a championship. That's unfortunately the way that he's built himself. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not surprised one bit that he's there, because again, he just plays for a team that is just not good enough to make it far or make it anywhere in the East, and he's like one of the best superstars. He was a star player for a couple years and then really has like evolved to become like a 30 point a night, like crazy scoring, one of the best shooting guards, which by the way, I've heard some rumors about like, maybe the Bulls could try to go after him. Now there would be some draft capital issues, and Patrick Williams, the rookie we took this year, number 4 overall, would probably be included. So, there's some things there that you could take, questions about, but I would not deny it considering Bradley Beal's that good. And then Kyrie Irving is Kyrie Irving. He's one of my favorite players. When he's healthy, Kyrie Irving's, one of the best point guards, if not the best point guard in the league when he's healthy. I mean, yeah, you could talk about him and Steph or, Damian Lillard for sure. In my opinion, Damian Lillard's probably the best point guard besides Steph right at the moment. Because he's just all around, he's just one of the best scorers in the game and one of the most reliable clutch guys in the game. But yeah, it's Kyrie when he's healthy and playing, he's great, but it's just get him on the court, Whenever he's actually on the court, he's good, but it's been a problem to keep him on the court this year and in the past, so that's why he's here.
Yeah.
So now we go to the All NBA second team, and we start to get to kind of the bigger names. So off the bat, Chris Paul being here, it's great for Chris Paul because again, he was a integral piece to why that Suns team has been as good as they are and been on such a magical run, and that's why they're basically in my opinion, if he's actually going to be able to play, they'll be making a run for the championship. Then you have Julius Randle, who played for the Knicks team. The Knicks team was much better this year, and Julius Randle exploded on the scene this year. And he always had a ridiculous talent. He just never was able to meet it with production. And this year he did finally. So he started finally producing at the level that we all expect him to. So yeah, he's very deserving on this list. If the guys that were on the first team weren't there, then yeah, he would probably be on the first team because he played that well this year and deserved it with the way that team played, bouncing from the previous year. Then of course you have LeBron. LeBron should be on an all NBA list no matter what. Cause I mean,
League required. Has to be somewhere.
Yeah, it's the same way that like when Jordan was playing, he had to be on he would be on an NBA list at some, every single year. Same thing with LeBron. He's just gotta be. I mean, he's literally one of the best players in the league, if not the best, at times.
Which
yeah,
by the way, since you mentioned Michael Jordan, I forgot if I sent it to you, but there was a like a review of kind of like, I think it was like slow motion or something, or just kind of I think it was like an interesting
his ball fakes.
Subreddit. Yeah, the ball fakes. That I think I've seen that a few times, but still, I just saw it randomly in the morning, and I was just like, it literally, I don't know how you would beat that. Like, I don't know, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, listen, ask anybody that played against the Bulls in the '90s, and you'll just it's a Did you watch The Last Dance?
Oh yeah, yeah. I watched and I
Okay.
saw that a lot there too. It had just been a while since I seen it, and it was just it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, with Jordan, it's one of those where, and it's a lot of players back in the day, like even Charles Barkley, gets clowned down a little bit. Like people need to watch the highlights because like Charles Barkley was ridiculous. I mean, he was one of the best players who never won a championship. He's the player that you refer to as like oh, the good players that'll never win a championship. He's literally the top of that list because he was that good. He probably should have won the MVP that year over Jordan. I'll just say that right now.
Yeah,
And he got beat in the finals by the Bulls. But you have to go back and watch their highlights, all of those players' highlights, to appreciate just how good they were. And of course, Jordan being the cream of the crop, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. We're we're back into the all second team talk. So I left off with basically LeBron, and that's where we start talking. The other two guys on this list is obviously Joel Embiid, who very deserving being on the list, considering he was up for the MVP potentially. Again, health is always an issue with him, and being healthy for the whole season. And then obviously I've said on end tonight that the Sixers are just underwhelming, but so he's deserving at least himself. And then Damian Lillard, who is like one of the just careers that I hate to watch but love to watch, because I hate to watch it because I know this career is never going to go anywhere if he stays with the Trailblazers. And again, that's another player, by the way, that I heard linked to maybe the Bulls could try to make a run at Damian Lillard, which would be incredible. But
yeah,
that's a pipe dream. But I Damian Lillard needs to get out of Portland. As much as I respect his staying for his team, being a legend there and being a part of the city and being loyal and everything, that's great, buddy. But like, I really want to see your career somewhere else where you could potentially win a championship because, and I've said this before, and we've talked about it with Kawhi's injury going down, and Kawhi's on this list too. He should go to the Clippers absolutely if he has the chance, because he would win a championship immediately with the Clippers, because the Clippers, again, like I said, Kawhi, not really an alpha. He's made some shots at the end of games, don't get me wrong, but not really an alpha, not really a guy who's going to take over a series on his own single-handedly when needed, like Durant did yesterday.
yeah.
So you get Damian Lillard though, suddenly now they have a guy who can do that. And then you're talking Paul George is your number 3 option and Kawhi Leonard's your number 2. That's insane. That's going to be an insane team. And if he joined the Clippers, they'd win the championship the next year,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
yeah.
So Damian Lillard criminally underrated, and is again, we've said this last week, one of only 2 players that has hit 2 game series ending shots, him and Michael Jordan. So that's something to be said about that.
It's a cool
And
stat.
yeah, so now we transition though over to the NBA first team, which has, of course, Giannis on there being, the highest seeded team in the East. A little disappointing, as we've talked about previously, and a flawed superstar, as I've said in a previous video. And I say that because the man needs to shoot better. Like, he shot well last game, and you saw suddenly when he started to shoot better, wow, the Bucks are a legit contender when he can shoot well and is a threat in that department. He needs to do that. Same conversation we had about Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is not as good, in my opinion, as Giannis, but they have the same problem. Both of them can't shoot for crap. And that's a problem. When you can't shoot, then what are we talking about here? You play a game where literally it was based around shooting. You need to do that in order if you're going to win a championship.
Hot take.
Yeah, crazy. So yeah, that needs to happen. That needs to be a thing. Of course, we talked about the Bucks endlessly, so I'm not going to go on another rant. But then we move over to Jokic, who deservingly MVP of the league, lowest draft pick. We've talked about this in a previous video. Check that out if you want to, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Jokic and his run. It's exciting. Love that he's on this team. Of course, he's pretty much a guaranteed spot on the NBA first list when he wins the MVP trophy. Pretty much guy who just won the most valuable player in the league should probably be in the All NBA first team. So
Yeah,
he's already had a spot given. Steph Curry, who was, in my opinion, probably the next man up for an MVP trophy in that department. That makes sense to have him there. I mean, he literally put them on his back towards the end. So that was great. And then obviously Luka, I talked about earlier as being a superstar and being, the guy kind of thing. So that's not surprising in the least that's, he's on the list. And then, of course, you have Kawhi Leonard being on the list, which again makes total sense too, because Kawhi Leonard is the best team on the Clippers team, which is a really good team. Kawhi Leonard's probably the best two-way player in the league, as far as offense to defense. A guy, again, I have some qualms about Kawhi Leonard in general, just over the course of his whole entire career, being kind of a guy who's really not, uh, an alpha who's going to be able to be the guy most of the time. That's why we talked just a moment ago about Damian Lillard needing to be there. So, but it makes sense that he's on the list because he's a very good player, had a very good season with a very good team. Unfortunately, it's going to come to, his season has come to an end with the ACL injury, and this team's probably come to an end as well because I think they're going to lose this game, and I think they'll lose game 6 and be out. So we'll see how next year goes, and we'll see if they're able to get Damian Lillard. But all NBA teams, I'm totally fine with them. The one thing I will say though, before we move on, is that I did think this was interesting. Is I saw that Jason Tatum, who played insanely well for the Celtics this year, as well as Donovan Mitchell, were both left off of the All NBA list, and it actually lost them because of the way the NBA does it with all of their contracts. As you get certain honors, you move up for certain things. Like Jokic getting MVP moved him into the being able to get the supermax deal and have the largest contract in history if he wants, when they offer it to him.
If.
Same thing with same thing with Embiid. He was he's up for the supermax based on his all honors and everything. It's not going to be as large as Jokic's, but it will be up there as well. I believe it was 4 years, 191 million, so he's not hurting for cash in that department. But the one thing I will say is that both of these players, because they missed all NBA honors, are now about to lose out on 33 million each on their contracts.
It is each? I was wondering when you sent me the notes if it was both of them. Wow.
Nope, 33 million each that they would have had extra. So like instead of their contracts being worth 190 million, now they're only worth 160 because they missed out on the NBA honors, and unfortunately that plays into being eligible for certain contracts.
Wow. That's oof.
That sucks. Especially because we're watching literally Donovan Mitchell play well in a playoff series about to go to the Western Conference Finals. And then you talk about Jason Tatum, how basically, I mean, he was the reason why the Celtics were as good as they were. So like those two players missing out, and it's hard because you play the game of like, well, who should get snubbed? But it's one of those where, that sucks. I definitely would not want to be missed out on $30 million because I wasn't, winning a popularity contest, basically.
Yeah, how does the All NBA team work? Is it like reporters, or is it like the fake Pro Bowl stuff for the NFL?
I think it's voted on by. I think it's like I think it's like a reporters thing where it's like, people. It's like a certain amount of people that are associated with the sport or have been associated with the sport that earned this, the vote or whatever. I think that's what it is, if I remember correctly. So it's one of those where players always get overlooked for these teams, and other times NBA teams, you're like, why is this guy on the All NBA first team? Should have been on the third, or vice versa. But these two guys getting left off is rough because, like I said, losing out on $30 million on your next contract is not great.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
it's a rough day.
I know they're still going to make like 160 or 170 million dollars, but
they won't be out on the streets, that's for sure. But
but 30 million is still 30 million.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.